So, welcome to our session 4 of Cantankerous Old Women with me, of course, founder of the Silver Tent, and the awesome Dale Darley, who is in Spain and wonderfully cantankerous.
I
And
am.
in the nicest possible way, Dale, I love your cantankerousness. And today we decided that we're going to talk about UTIs in women as we grow older and all things to do with weeing, particularly at night, and maybe other things that happen as we women get older. So I'm going to hand over
I'm
to you.
trying desperately not to laugh, but yes, it's an interesting subject, one's weeing.
Well, it became really very interesting to me recently when we had that catch up Zoom the other day, and I was saying, I think I'm turning peeing, uh, farting, and burping into Olympic sport. And so I was telling you about, I don't quite know why we're doing this on a public YouTube channel, but anyway, what does it matter? But really, I could have been peeing for England, particularly at night, and I mentioned it to you, and that I think that it could have been a symptom of a UTI. But I hadn't realized at the time how much amazing knowledge and wisdom you have around these things.
Well, I too wee a lot at night, but it was interesting because you were. I can't even remember how we got onto the subject, and it might have been something about sleep or something like that, and perhaps we had both had one of those nights where we endlessly weed. It's just it now feels like a very silly word. Anyway, and I'd said to you, well, that's quite interesting because the bladder and things around that area are often connected to fear. And the reason that that comes up for me is my mum has inst I can't even say the word properly, interstitial cystitis. And she calls her bladder, she says, "Oh, I've got a tetchy bladder." Now, when she says that to me, I go, "Right, right, what's going on, mum? What's stressing you? What are you worried about? What you..." And of course, when you said that to me, it's like it's always on my mind that as soon as someone says about weeing or coughing or whatever, I come and I think, what emotions behind that? Like, what's going on in their life? I mean, you can't say that to a lot of people. But because we know each other, I felt comfortable to say, and you didn't have to answer me what's going on, something, that's making you feel that little bit of fear. And then you went on to explain, obviously, you don't have to explain on here because we're talking about the weeing thing. But I find it really fascinating. Why, as we get older, do we wee so much at night? And then why I'm not sure if my mum has I think my mum has long had like cystitis, I can't even say that now, cystitis and whatever. And is it kind of like inbuilt in us that we have a natural response to things that are going on? Like I know when I was younger, I did get like lots of urinary infections and stuff. And I can't remember now if I was fearful, but I probably was. I was fearful about what was going on in my life, and my body was talking just like yours was.
I think it's so fascinating. That's I think where I just went, oh, I think there's a really interesting subject
Mm.
to talk about because you were talking about talking to your body, listening to your
Mm.
body. And I hadn't seen it at the time as potentially being a fear-based response, bodily response. I was thinking maybe it was a symbolic illustration of being pissed off.
That as
Obvious
well.
reasons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what happened to me was I think that for a while I was having a UTI because I was feeling like I needed to go to the loo, but there was nothing there. But when
Mm,
we spoke, it was like, oh, it was Niagara Falls. It was just ridiculous.
no.
I thought much more is coming out than I'm putting in. And I began to feel very uh, dehydrated, even though I was drinking plenty. So I promised that I would share before we came on here how I'm getting on with
Yeah.
mine. And I'm taking Celtic salt now.
Yes.
Um, so not only when I remember, but it does seem to have made a difference. I'm much more normal at night now.
Well, it puts the electrolytes back in your body because it's full of minerals. And of course, if you're pissing everything away, then, your body's got nothing to help create a balance. And if you think about the fear response, what we actually want to do is bring it back into balance. I mean, I drink absolutely mountains of water. And then, like you, when I remember, I have and it's like, whenever anyone says to me about like the weeing, I go, "Oh, you got to take Celtic sea salts," and I think, "You haven't taken it today." It's like it's all very well having remedies, but you got to remember to take them to bring that balance back. So are you weeing? A personal question: Are you weeing less at night now?
Quantity wise, definitely.
Thank God.
Definitely. Now that
Wonderful.
feels like it's this is like Goldilocks, not too little and not too much.
Yeah.
But maybe normal for 70 years old. I
Do you
don't
know,
know.
and I wonder if it is normal because like I'm 65, my mum is 87, and nearly every older woman, not you can't say everybody, but nearly every older woman that I talk to wheeze in the night. And I notice, I think like last night, for example, I'll go to bed and I'll be faffing around on my phone or writing in my journal or, just whatever. And I'll have weed before I've gone. I'll get into bed and let's say I'm journaling, and all of a sudden I think I need another wee. I've literally only just got into bed. So, and for me, it's like down some steps, across the thing, down some steps, into the bathroom, have a wee, and always loads. And it's like come all the way back. And I think, do whatever. And then I think I'm just going to switch the light out. And then I think, oh, and I best go and have another. That's three wees. And then I come back, and then in the middle of the night, like last night, for example, I dreamt, and I like all like wild dreams going on. And in one of them, and you always know you need a wee, in one of them, but I was in this beautifully clean bathroom. And I think it was the room belonged to a celebrity or something. And I was with somebody and we'd got into this room. I know we're going a bit off track, but there was a beautifully styled, gorgeously clean toilet for me to go in. Because normally when you have a wee wee dream, it's like you find a public toilet with lots and lots of cubicles, and every single one is filthy. It's like covered in shit. There's a smell, there's stuff, and it's overflowing, and there's water everywhere. And you want to go, and you want to go, and every door you open, that's anxiety. Every door you open is worse, and there's nowhere to go. And then you find one that's like okay-ish, and when you look, there's an office building, and everyone's watching. Right? But last night it was a beautifully clean toilet. But I get this weird pain. So I'm dreaming, dreaming, dreaming. And in my dream, I'm like, I'm not getting up. You cannot make me go for a wee. And in the end, I think, oh God. So I have to get out of bed and I have to keep my eyes open because, as you know, there are so many steps and things and bad, things to hold on to go for the wee and then to come back. And it's like, back in the dream. And then at some point it'll happen again, and then it's morning because it's like the pain is even worse. It's not like a pain, but it's like you've got to go. And it's like, what is going on? And do you know it's really weird? Like I haven't written this anywhere on Facebook. You know you get all the reels? There's all these reels now where you have to mix olive oil with lemon and neck it, and you'll stop urinating. And then there's all these videos where you have to press like an acupuncture point,
Oh,
and you'll
yeah.
stop weeing. And it's like, how does Facebook know I'm weeing all night long? And they're giving me all these like little tips of things. And I haven't done the olive oil and the lemon juice because I haven't got any lemons. Got plenty of olive oil, but I am going to try it.
Sorry, you live in Spain and you don't have
Yes.
any members.
Well, no, I mean there are lots of lemon trees, but it's not the time of year to pick them. To borrow them off my neighbour's tree. So I do have to go out after we've talked. I've got to walk the dogs and then I've got to go somewhere. And I am going to buy some lemons because these videos of different people keep coming up. And apparently it's olive oil and lemons. And there was another video where you added something else. I can't remember, apple cider, I don't know. But I thought I don't particularly want to neck olive oil and lemon. But if it stops it, so I report back and let
Yes.
you know.
Our peeing reporter.
Yes,
That's
yes.
great. But
But
it's an interesting subject, the whole peeing thing, isn't it? What's popped up for me is years ago, before I was considered old or even elder. So I guess I was in my 40s,
mm,
living in a really sweet little bedsit, rented bedsit, but opposite Hampstead Heath in London. The incredibly privileged place to find a rentable bedsit, I have to say. And I started to get this urge to go for a pee. I like almost consistently, certainly the moment that I wanted to go out to the shops or wherever. If I was traveling anywhere, even if it was just a 20-minute walk, it would become a major hurdle to overcome. I would need to go to the loo, or I would feel like I needed to go to the loo so many times before leaving the house. I got to the point where I would start mapping out my route and where there would be a toilet in case I got caught short. But there was never anything to go. I mean, I didn't need to go, but my body really, really thought it needed to go. And I got a bit worried about that. I wondered whether I was getting early incontinence or, what the hell was this? So I remember really thinking about what could this be? And I thought, okay, well, it's not true, right? My body is giving me false information. I don't need to go to the loo. My bladder is not remotely full. In fact, half the time, I don't have anything in it at all. So if my body is telling me something that is inaccurate, then that must be something. So I did some Google searching and I found something that you probably know about and see if I can remember what it's called. Urge incontinence. It's called urge incontinence, and it's when you have the urge to go, but there's no reason for it. So I thought, okay, it exists. That's a relief. Now I can get my head around it. If it's an urge that is inaccurate, my body for some reason is doing that, so I'll train it out of it. Oh, which I did. I did.
oh,
I took a few weeks, maybe a couple of months or something after I realized that it was something. It had a name.
mm.
I don't remember what the causes are, apparently, any of that. But I would talk myself out of it, right? I don't need to go now. My body thinks it does. I would talk back to my body, you don't really need to go. And eventually being in a car again with other people was less of a strain, particularly if we're on the motorway. The thought of having to ask them to stop at every single motorway services just in case this urge was real was like, oh,
I'd have
appalling.
given you some incontinence pants to wear and said, wear them and stop
Yeah.
complaining.
I don't know why I didn't think about that. Maybe
Yeah,
just
but
felt
we
like it
don't
was
as younger
bulky and
women.
nasty.
As a
Sorry?
young woman, you wouldn't think of buying like wee pants. Now, I see, as you were talking, what came to me was this. I remember as growing up that my mum always used to say before you went anywhere, we need to go and have a wee. And so your mum probably did the same to you. And for whatever reason, that became like an anxiety, an anxious thing that you have to check that you need to go for a wee. And then if you like, and maybe as a child, if you ever went on long journeys, it was always, we have to just pop in here to go. And that may have been in your head because I know when I go and stay with my mum, we always have to go for a wee before we go out. And then when we go somewhere, we have to go where she can have a wee. But I think it's a thing that our mums train us in, for some reason, train us into, if we're going to go somewhere, we have to make sure we have a wee before we go. And I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but the minute you said it, I was like, God, yeah, all my life, got to have a wee before you go.
Yes, and I do think that. I don't remember my mum ever saying you need to have 5 or 6 wees before we go.
Oh,
And then be prepared every 5 minutes, of the journey. But it is an interesting thought that maybe some anxiety that was connected
yeah,
to my
yeah,
childhood, but wasn't that I wasn't consciously aware of.
no, no.
But but for things like UTIs, because I remember looking after mum, like she would get UTI after UTI after UTI, and of course, endless prescriptions of
Mm,
um, whatever they are. So, antibiotics, that's the word,
yeah,
antibiotics, and which I wouldn't personally take,
yeah.
but she was just like all for an easy life, really. But what do you recommend for people who are prone to UTIs, particularly at, beyond 50, 60, 70, 80?
Well, that's see, that's a very interesting subject because something I have learned over the years from having all kinds of things happen to my body is I never make recommendations to people anymore. And I'll tell you why, because often, on Facebook, someone will say, "Oh, I've got a whatever, what should I do?" And people go, "Take this, take this." And I think, hang on a minute, what we need to do is we need to come back and say, why is this happening to us? What what am I eating? What am I drinking? What else is going on in my life? What medications am I taking? Because if I said to you, so I remember when we were when I was growing up, if I had a urinary infection, we take something, and I think it was called Miss C Pots it, and it's potassium citrate. And you'd go to the chemist, you'd buy it in a bottle, taste, trying to think what the taste was, whether it was lemony or bicarby lemony or something, and you mix it with water and neck it, and it would ease this process. So that was always our go-to, or like bicarb soda or something like that. Well, if I said to an older woman to go and take something like, and the reason it's in my head is my mum was suffering with something recently. A reel came up with potassium citrate in it. So I thought, oh, link back to childhood. I'll go and research it and see if it's something my mum can take. But the minute I started researching it, I started thinking, well, she can't take it because of this, this, and this, right? So my answer to your question is you have to understand yourself and like what emotionally is going on, what stuff is happening in your life, what you're eating and drinking. Are you having something that's different to normal? Are you having to rush your food? Like what's going on? And then come back and experiment with different things. So potassium citrate could work for some people. Bicarb soda could work for some people. What works for mum is marshmallow root.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So so it's I'm not going to reckon marshmallow root is I think is the gentlest of all of those things, and it would be the one that I would it would be my thing of choice, but you have to look at what else, like what are the contraindications? Like, are you taking some kind of medication that this is like I was looking at something this there was a thing about thyroid in the either the tent or in Synergy, and someone said cleavers and calendula tea. So I'm like, oh, I've never like I know what calendula is. I've never heard of cleavers. So I go off to research it. And then and funnily enough, and no connection to our conversation, I started to research whether it would be any good for nocturia, and that's the word for nighttime weeing, nocturia, whether it would be any good for that. And my honestly, I can't remember what the answer was, but I decided that I wouldn't. So coming back to your answer, not your answer, your question, um, I think you've got to know yourself and then you have to experiment. So like when my spine fractured and I was told I had severe osteoporosis, I spent a lot of money testing different things to see how they worked for me and worked together. And, you know, did I feel like anything was making any difference? Honestly, potassium citrate, bicarb might work, drinking more water might work, having marshmallow root might work, examining is anything like frightening you, stressing you. I haven't got an answer. So I got a lot of knowledge, but what I learned from that in fact, it was before the osteoporosis when I originally had an overactive thyroid. What I learned was because I'm a big researcher. But what I also do, this is long before AI, I sit with big sheets of paper and then I'm going, well, if I can't do that because of this, and I know, oh, so I can do that over there because it's not, and I have to see the picture. And I don't think a lot of people do that, but I want to say for us older ladies, we could be taking a whole apothecary of things and then you can't take the thing I've said. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes total sense. And I'm just, really getting that phrase in my head that, there isn't a one size fits all.
Mm.
And I wonder, when we go to the doctor, no, I can't
Oh,
even
don't start me on the
time
doctor.
I went. Is that there's potentially a one size fits all there. If it's one of those short, however long they have, to
12
see
minutes
one
or two
person.
minutes. Yeah. Mm.
um, but to have that holistic approach and to look at everything and to ask the body what it needs, even if we don't know whether we can hear the
No.
answer. But I like that. I like being able to resolve whatever is going on with me. Um, and and I often think that the reason that I go to the loo frequently in the night is because I wake up, and not that I wake up because I need to go for a pee. I think for me it's
Right.
the other way around.
Okay.
That I wake up and I think, oh, I'll go for a pee. Because if I don't wake up for a long time, I
Right.
haven't peed the bed, right? And
No.
I'm not necessarily peeing more.
Mm. I,
Do you think that's too
I
much
still don't want to go down
information?
the path of incontinence pants, but I think they're a very good idea. If you think that might happen to you, uh, what what strikes me about what you've just said is I wake up and then decide I've got to go for a wee. So now we're coming back to something else. What is making you wake up? And, I'm not a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, but I always look at that clock. So if I wake up between like certain hours, what organs and what emotions, and often you might find that, people often say, oh, I woke up at I don't know, whatever time in the morning and I'm having these amazing downloads. So if you looked at the clock, and I can't remember, I'm sitting there going, damn, I can't remember what all the organs. I mean, I've learned all this stuff. I did a crystal therapy course for 2 years and learned all this stuff. It's like, I'd have to look at it. But whatever that time thing is in the morning, if you then look at the organs, maybe you're not downloading, maybe it's an organ that is planning. So you've woken up and you're going, oh, yes, the heavens is raining, marvelous. And we do get downloads. I'm being a little facetious. I'm being a cantankerous old woman. We do. But then what starts to happen as the things come in, we go plan, 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 new program, this, write a book, do that. And all of a sudden, that organ, that time that you've woken up, the organ is doing what it's designed to do. So it comes back to what is going on in your life that is causing the body to talk to you, to wake you up at a particular time, to do or feel or know a certain thing. And when you think about it, it feels like, Jesus Christ, it's a bit bloody complicated. I have a lovely, lovely friend who's given me like a pre-bed routine and some breathing exercises and some breathing stuff to do when I wake up. And it's overwhelming and it's too much for me. And when I'm sleeping really well at the moment. And when I'm getting up for those, and so, oh, bless
Excuse
you,
me.
bless you, bless you. So some nights it's very frequent and very annoying, and then some nights it's like I'm in the middle of a dream and I have to go, and then I just come back and carry on sleeping. But when I have those nights when I wake up at a particular time, I often look at the clock and go, not the clock dial, but the TCM clock. And it's like, oh, that makes sense. But I have a ritual, and it's ever, like I will get up and go and get a cup of tea because I'm thinking I'm not going to lie here and let this bother me. And even though the cup of tea is going to make me want to wee, I don't care because so I'll go and get a cup of tea, I'll get my Kindle and read, I'll do some journaling, and then I might just sit and do some breathing exercises or put on a yoga nidra. It's like whatever combination works for you. And then I go back to sleep until I need to wee when the dawn comes. So that comes back to what is going on that makes you wake up. So we come back to we've got to look at we've got to look at that big picture, which is often we don't because we're caught in that moment. But what is going on that's triggering your body that's going, oi, you wake up. We got things
Mm.
to do. Yeah.
Well, I had a really good conversation yesterday, I think it was, or the day before. Day before,
Sometime.
anyway, not that it's relevant. With Jeanette Kishori Mackenzie about my very disturbed sleep. And when it's really bad, I can be waking up every hour.
Yeah.
So that's probably every organ in my body doing something. It's very irritating turning the light off at say 10:30, then waking up and thinking, oh, that felt like a good sleep, and then discovering it's 11:30.
I know that's very annoying.
Oh, and then 12:30, and then 1:45, all through the night. I just want to hurl myself out of a window. It gets like that. But I also realized that in all the intuitive work that I've been doing over the last couple of decades, that actually one of my mind's strategies of when I'm doing something that I feel is important is I will often get really tired so that I don't feel like I've got the energy to undertake what's important. And it's like a part of me holding me back from doing that. And I thought, I think it's that. I'm so used to it. I don't contemplate that. So I'm now working with my body and my mind on that basis that, I remember when I went to Peru 10 years ago, whenever it was, and I was trying to train myself into being fit enough to handle the Andes. But at the time, I lived in Hertfordshire, and the land was like that, you know, and the Andes like that. So I didn't get fit enough, remotely fit enough. But my foot, one of my left foot, I think, wouldn't let me walk more than a mile. It would start to be really painful.
Mm.
And I would talk to my body and say, I know you don't want to go. I know that you're frightened that we're going to die out in Peru, probably at altitude. And I hear you, but we're going anyway. And I think that that's what I need to start saying to my body is like, really hear it. I
Mm.
know that we're worried, we're playing with some big visions and big ideas, and we're doing it anyway, regardless of how tired I
Isn't it
feel.
interesting that at points where things come, talking about mountains, come to a peak, that we do the work that's needed, and then when that's done and it all seems to be resolved, we don't continue. Like I know when, I've had thyroid issues and my spine fractured and whatever else. I've done lots of talking to my body. When I had the fractured spine, I laid in bed and I visualized a truck full of all the different minerals that my spine would need. And the truck would drive up my spine, tipping out and filling all the bits that it needed, right? But it really, really worked for me. And like the same thing, like with my thyroid, I did visualization. I got, blue crystals and blue silk scarves. I took went with the spine. I had an X-ray of my spine, and I doused for crystals with crystals, and I joined all the different crystals in the right order with little connecting, quartz crystals, and I sat, I stood and did healing over it. But I don't do that I don't do it on a regular basis. And it's interesting. It's like when everything comes to a crescendo and we are at our worst, and then we start to do the research and we get it in our head that we got to fix something. And it's like, why can't we have a calm nervous system all the time? Like, how do we not realize that we're in that truly frazzled state? And something you said about your energy, like I don't know huge amounts about human design, but I know in the human design system I'm a projector, and I know that I have to protect my energy. And what's helping me sleep better is how I structure my day. So you and I have probably been brought up in we have to be busy and you have to work hard and it's like if anybody says that to me again, it's like, "Urgh." And I find this doing drives me insane. And what I've done is I have consciously talked that you've got to be busy out of my head. And I've structured my days so that I'm not depleting myself. And then I'm not beating myself up for not doing. And I think that helps the urination as well. Because it's like your body's in this emergency mode. And then it's fearful that you haven't done all the things you said you're going to do today. It's like, okay, let's rein that back in. So what also, sorry, things keep popping into my head, about the fear and the we response. I remember one of my dogs, Angel, she either got bitten by a scorpion or a snake, and everything puffed out. And I took her because I was going into a place called Albox. I took her to a different vet than I normally go to, and she's the kind of dog that it's like, don't touch me, and she squiggles a lot. She doesn't. She knows she needs to be helped, but she's like, oh, yeah. And anyway, these people manhandled her onto the counter, weren't kind to her, held her down, and jabbed this, and she pissed everywhere. And I was trying to hold her, to soothe her. And I thought, you have terrified her. I've never been back since. And for the next treatment, I took her somewhere else, and they were so gentle and kind. And she still didn't want to be treated. But if you can see that in an animal, we're animals.
Yeah.
So, like coming back to that human design thing, the more I understand me and my energy, and I know that I can't be a do-do-doer. I've spent my entire life. Well, no wonder our bodies are going like this. So, how do we manage that energy? How do we manage that, all that stuff we've been brought up with? How do we look at that big picture that stops us weeing all night long? So I have no answers for anybody. All I'm saying is we kind of need to look at our lives.
And
What's going
how important is that for everything? I mean, it is, isn't it? Rather than abdicating our power and looking to, the authority of medicine or,
yeah.
what have you. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't have its place, but that to start within seems like a really, really good idea. And I look after the flow of my day, and I don't know much about human design, but I'm a manifester, and that means apparently all I know about being a manifester is that I should be a really good storyteller.
You are?
Thank you. And that I should lie on a sofa until my body says, now I want to do something. And I am really good at that. And I used to think that maybe it was laziness because when people see me
Yes.
do that, they think I'm being lazy. But actually,
Yeah.
it works really well because when my body says we're ready to do it, it's already created.
Yeah.
I don't have to spend hours. It's happened in the background somewhere. So
And mine is wait for the emotional wave. So I have this brain that goes, oh, millions and millions of ideas. So, when I talk about the download in the middle of the night, I do get those things. And I've almost had to train myself. This is what we're doing. We're not doing that. But I get all those, I get lots of amazing ideas. And what I've learned is wait for the emotional wave that when it's the right time. So, we started talking about weeing and we've ended up with energy, but actually they're all connected.
they are, aren't they?
It
Yeah.
is. I mean, when you think about this body, this our own, we have our own planet with our own rivers and valleys, and maybe we've got trees growing out of our faces with I always remember, I'm not sure if I got one now. I always remember like pulling my mum's and I have got one, calling it the witch's whisker. But this is an amazing bit of machinery, and if you liken it to planet Earth, then, we've got to look at how we treat it. And we're not, I have to confess, I'm not brilliant. I'm just not because I'll often go off piece to go and do something and think, wish I hadn't done that. It was awfully nice at the time, And if what I'm coming back to weeing at night. What I'm doing now is I'm noticing what time did I eat my meal and what did I eat. So I can't remember how many nights ago it was, but I had salmon, I had some lactose-free cream, which obviously has preservatives in it, and just broccoli, spears, and carrots, right? I weed loads and I thought, that's really interesting. I haven't had any of that lactose-free cream in a very, very long time. I
Wow.
wonder if that's if there's any, I have no idea. I'm not going to eat it every night just to spend my time going for like 6 or 7 weeks. But, it's kind of really worth starting to think about what's happened in the day and why have I weed 6 times last night? I mean, there might be a mechanical reason. Because isn't there something to do with like the kidneys and the like now I'm feeling a bit lost territory, but there's something about the way that the heart and the kidneys do something when you lie down.
Oh, really?
There is, and I apologize to everyone watching. I don't actually know the answer, but I know there's something that happens mechanically between those two things. And I know there's a very good reason why one needs to elevate one's legs at night. Like my mum has one of those, what are they called? Oh, recliner chairs. And so her legs can be elevated, which should help with whatever that mechanical thing is. So that, anyone watching, I do apologize that I actually don't know what the heart and kidney thing, but you could go and research it and you'll get your, and I think it's something to do with, um, it's definitely something to do when you lie down and how they communicate with each other that causes you to need to wee, and elevating your legs is a good idea. Very sorry, everybody, that I
Well,
cock that up completely, but it's something to go and worth going to see. If we weren't talking, I would go off and research it, but I can't do that. And then I would look very wise, but never mind.
I
What's
think on that note, this is a great place to bring this
yeah,
particular episode to a close
perfect.
and then explore, whatever we do in episode 5. But this has just been so entertaining for me anyway.
Or me, because I'm sitting here with my legs crossed going, I think I want to wee wee now.
Oh, it's so easy to talk ourselves into that, isn't it?
Well, I know that I do. So coming back to something we said earlier, I know that I do because when we finish, I'm taking the dogs for a walk, and one needs to empty one's bladder before one goes upstairs.
No, you're making me want to go now. It's fine.
Time out. Stop. Stop.
Oh, Dale, just fabulous
Fabulous.
to chat with you as always. And I'm trusting that those who have watched so far, right to the end of this episode, that we haven't given too much information because I guess they would have stopped. And but anyway, now everybody knows how often we pee during the night, and it's lovely to be so authentic and transparent, I think.
And it is, although we've had lots of laughs, it actually is really important to talk about stuff that is important to us ladies. Um, Aging, is it gracefully or disgracefully? But also, there'll be something in what we have said that someone will go and they'll know what to go and do. Well, with any luck. With any luck and a fair wind.
And we'd love to hear from them about that in the comments below.
Yes,
So,
yeah, lovely.
Dale,
Thank
have
you.
a wonderful day, and I will speak to you next month whenever we schedule episode 5.
Perfect. Lots of love. Bye, everybody.
Bye.